Okay, I think we should address the very obvious thing before we start, and that's that we missed an episode.
That's right, darlings.
And
we missed a week.
Really, there's no excuse. We just went through some shit, and we had a lot to figure out, and I think we were just not in the frame of mind to be positive, and I still don't think we're necessarily in that frame of mind yet.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not going to hide the emotes today. We're just going to stay in our doom gloom vibe and just talk about kind of what we've been going through. We've had a little bit of mental breakdown energy. Like, that's the energy of the week.
That is the current energy of the week, unfortunately. And welcome back to Experts About Nothing.
Solemn. And on that note, we can talk about one of our cool things that we did this past weekend.
Yeah, let's start with some fun vibes.
Optimistic vibes, and then we'll go downhill. So, this last weekend, we ran the Central Park 5K and half
marathon. One of us did a half marathon, and one of us did a 5K. I'll let you guys guess. I did the 5K.
And I did the half marathon,
yeah.
But let's talk about the aftermath of that. Okay, like, while I was doing it, adrenaline high,
yeah.
I got through it.
She made amazing time.
Honestly, I feel like I kind of expected to push myself because it kind of always happens when you're running a race. When I ran my 10-miler,
yeah.
Same situation. Like, yeah, it was a cool experience. Would I do it again? I think doing the half marathon opened my eyes to the pain of a marathon. And
yeah.
I think I want to do just one marathon.
I think you can absolutely do it. And honestly, I will say, we were really, well, I was training for a 5K, a very different vibe.
Yeah.
But I think we were both just on our grinds of trying to run a lot and do all of that type of stuff in the beginning of the year. And then February, as we'll get into, was a rough month. Mm-hmm. And so we both kind of fell off track. Or at least, like, I personally wasn't, like, meeting the exact goals and, like, amount of runs that I was trying to do. I wasn't worried about the distance, per se, for the 5K, but I wanted to make a good time. Mm-hmm. And I still made my best time that I've ever ran a 5K.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was pretty solid. Or solid for me, I think.
Okay.
But I think I could have probably done better if I was able to, like, run more consistently and more rigorously closer to the race. Honestly, the entire week leading up to the race, I only ran one time, and it was on, like, Monday, and the race was on Saturday.
I know, I only ran 2 times, Monday, Tuesday, and then I was done.
Yeah, so given the circumstance, I'm proud of both of us. More so proud of you because you ran 13.1 or 2? 1 miles. Like, literally, that's insane. And after I did the 5K, the way that this race was staggered was the 5K was first. Mm-hmm. It was at 8 a.m.
I started at 8:30.
Yours was at 8:30. So by the time I finished my 5K, Diksha, like, hadn't even started her 5K or her half marathons. I was like, wow, I can't believe she's starting now and about to run.
That's also the polarizing thought I had when I was starting. I was like, I can't believe Priya ran and finished her whole, like, escapade for the day. Meanwhile, I have just started the hardest physical endeavor I have ever attempted to do.
It was crazy to think about.
I think doing it alone, it made it so much more difficult. But the one time I ran, like, the 10-mile, I ran it with one of our friends who was on our dance team, and she was the most fit girl ever. And I honestly only ran it that fast because she was running next to me, and I was like, oh my god, I need to keep up. Shout out Neha Amin. You are a rock star still.
Yeah.
And doing it now was more like a pacing exercise and, like, kind of just keeping tabs on the people around me. But a great experience.
Yeah. One more thing to add about this entire race experience. I mean, I think already by that point, we were already in, like, kind of a funk of a bunch of things happening, which we'll get into. But getting out and just running on, like, a Sunday morning, we literally woke up at, like, 5:45 a.m. because we had to trek to Central Park. It was a very exhausting morning thing. Even just doing it, it was the highlight of probably my year so far. Yeah. Or, I mean, one of the highlights. I think the girls' trip was my highlight. But it was such a breath of fresh air, literally, that I think I didn't realize I needed. And I was so happy after I finished it. Being part of an event like that feels so good.
And also just, like, doing that in Central Park was such a unique experience. I've never ran in Central Park before. Honestly, in the middle of this run, I don't know if it was a tear of sadness because I didn't know what was going on with my body, Or it was like a tear of actual, wow, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I can do this on a random Sunday in February. And I can, I don't know, accomplish like a goal I've always wanted to do in such a quintessential part of New York. That was a really wow experience. And I think that feeling, I won't forget that in a long time.
Me too. I felt the exact same way. So proud of us for doing that.
Yeah, good for us. Good for us.
And now to lead into the doom and gloom. So, the truth of the matter is we tried to record this pod twice before this week, and we had different ideas of topics we wanted to talk about. We have like a whole backlog list of ideas of things we could potentially talk about.
And that we will at some point.
We will at some point. We literally this week couldn't muster the energy to do this and didn't want to give you guys an inauthentic version of ourselves trying to pep ourselves up when the pep is just not in our step right now.
Yeah.
And so then we ended up missing an episode, but also wanted to record this just as this is where we at right now. This is the current mood. It's not an all-time high, and I think that's a normal process of life. There are highs, there are lows. I was telling Deeksha this earlier, listening to other pods of people being, you know what, it's been a shit week. And here are the little things that I did just to make myself feel better for 5 seconds, or even just hearing someone document what they're going through, like some of their anxieties or whatever. Like those authentic moments in podcasts I really appreciate.
Makes you feel less alone.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's not always going to be a really fun trip that we had or like a funny story. We've been going through it, and that's a valid part of life too. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think this year in general, the last 2 months, we've had some really great moments, but also are processing different things individually and still have different things going on in our respective lives that are not easy and require more attention and thought. Sometimes it's hard to put on a face all the time, and I think we are so lucky in that we have amazing relationships with our roommates and stuff that like when things go awry, we can share our pain and then follow that up with an hour of laughter, and it feels so much better. That's something that I'm really grateful for amid all the chaos. Even throughout this week, we've been having difficult conversations with each other, and then we come back and then we laugh for 3 hours about absolutely nothing. That makes everything a little bit easier.
Exactly. So, like, to go into some slight detail, I don't think we want to illustrate all of our problems on the pod right now. So, we started this year off with a high. We started this pod, which was probably one of the biggest highlights of the year so far. And
we're not stopping, folks.
No.
Just one blimp in the road, okay?
One blimp in the road. But I think we were both so charged up in the beginning of the year. Like, that really came through in our first episode, and we were on our itineraries, we were on our like goals and manifestation and vision boards, and pretty soon after that, I would say, we just were hit with different types of hardships, like personal hardships, familial hardships,
uncertainty,
and I think the one collective experience that we're currently sharing that threw us into a funk this week is that, I don't know, how do I phrase this?
The main thing that's been causing multiple spirals is that our lease is coming up and that we may not even be able to re-sign our current place. And it just forced all of us to kind of think through our next year plan. And those plans are scary because like we're at an age and we're at a point in our lives where our plans are diverging from one another, and it's a very natural phase of life. It's just a hard transition to even think about.
Yeah. I think it's like a testament to how much we literally adore and love and care so deeply about each other and this living experience. If I could actually pluck a dream from my brain when I was 16 years old or something, I want to move to New York City with my best friends. That would be a fantasy of life for me. And so the way that all of this unraveled was a bit surprising and not something we were necessarily fully prepared for.
And I think that's like the main thing. We just were not ready for this. Once the power's kind of taken away from you in that decision, it just forces you to think about every single option like that maybe you were thinking about prior and all your freedom.
It's very weird because part of it is the power is taken away from you. The other part of it is we have completely shifted work culture over the past 2 years, where before, something that would be tying you to a place was usually your job. At least it was for us, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's like I moved to New York for a job and I came back to New York for a job, and now location is not necessarily a factor anymore for a lot of tech jobs specifically, which are the jobs that we work. So now you're just like, wait, what is tying me to anything? Like, is it my friends? Is it my family? Is it my job? It's just all kind of like a mixture of thought. And once the floodgates opened in that regard, it was hard to reel back. All of like your little interests or your little dreams that maybe were like in the back of your brain just start to come to the front of your brain, because now you have all the freedom and flexibility in the world, and along with that, all of the uncertainty in the world. Mm-hmm. So that resulted in literally staggered like mental breakdowns.
Yeah, and I think the whole thing with this is that it's so different than the pandemic forcing us to diverge for a little while. The pandemic was a shared collective experience, mm-hmm. and none of us had a say in that. When we went through that entire experience, because the choice was made for us, it was almost less stressful because everyone was in the same boat. We were all doing the same thing, which was nothing. And it was stressful in a different way. Yeah. Not that it wasn't stressful. But it's like
something happening to you and happening to the world at that point, mm-hmm. right? And it's not really driven by your own individual priorities and decisions at that point.
Yeah. Now, when just kind of processing all of this, it just makes you think about your differing priorities. Kind of like rank all the things in your life that matter to you and like how you want to approach your interests, along with some things that maybe aren't as flexible in your life. Thinking about all that, and rather the overthinking has drained all of us a lot. We are all going through the processing cycle at a different rate. Each of us have a breakdown separately. Like, that was the energy of the week. Sundays, one person was upset. Monday, a different person was upset. I had mine on Wednesday, and it's still not over, mm-hmm. but I think it's the sadness of uncertainty.
Yeah,
I think
it's like letting go of something you envisioned. It's just like, oh, I thought I could just do this thing that I thought was guaranteed almost, mm-hmm. and that being taken away. I mean, it may not be fully taken away, but that not aligning fully with what you expected, it's a hard thing to grapple with. So part of it is sadness, and then the other part of it is the fear. At least for me, it's like sadness and fear combined. And I think another thing to note is that we've just been emotionally exhausted, mm-hmm. in a lot of different ways. I just feel like I don't have the pure, like if I was at a different baseline right now, maybe I would be able to react to this type of like random occurrence differently. But the baseline was already a little flimsy.
Yeah, that, as well as the fact that we just have so much going on the next couple months also. To add another thing to think about on top of all of that was, I think that was my breaking point in my thought. I was like, how am I going to do all of this and also stick to all the plans I've already made for April and May, all of which include so much travel? Situating another thing on top of all of that and work, that was just also a tiring thought.
Yeah, like literally the word I would use to describe this whole experience is just exhaustion. I feel fatigued to make a decision. I feel fatigued to like think about all these permutations and combinations, but my mind keeps going there.
It's really hard to stop your brain from spinning when you have an idle moment. In terms of how I process this breakdown was a little bit different than I've done in the past. When I first got the news that we might not be able to re-sign and we'd have to figure maybe some alternative plans out, I was like, okay, I'm angry, but I'm not fully processing everything that's happening. I don't know what exactly my steps are, but I'm gonna be upset for mm-hmm. a day. And it was mainly just ranting to my mom, ranting to our roommate Ushi, who was there with me, and like ranting to anyone that would listen about this predicament that we were in. And then after we came home from this run on Sunday, I think it started settling in that this was something we needed to figure out. Monday and Tuesday, I was like diving deeper into my sadness phase. But I went to work on Tuesday, which was great for my energy. I simply couldn't sit in my room all day without spiraling. And I was just thinking all the time about the wrong things. Like, I was in the workday and I was so distracted. I needed to change in scenery. So I'm so glad I went to work on Tuesday. And then Wednesday morning hit, and that was it. I woke up.
Yeah.
And all my thinking had accumulated to the point where I had 90 options in my head.
Yeah.
And there was no direction that was really pulling me as this is what you need to do. It just erupted. Called my mom. I have this tendency whenever I know that things are about to hit rock bottom or things feel internally like they're about to hit rock bottom, even if not externally, it's all fine. Like, it's not that deep. I immediately call my mom when the tears are forming. It's a very instinctual reaction I have. I call my mom. She immediately hears it in my voice. She says, "What's wrong?" And that's all it takes for the tears to start rolling.
It begins. Yeah.
And then I just start. And then the thing is, with Indian parents, it's like when you tell them about these minor life inconveniences that are actually causing you tears, stress, anxiety, lack of sleep, she just immediately starts yelling at me and goes, "You're always stressed for stupid things.
I mean,
why are you
just
stressed about this? Like, we will literally come help you if you need to move. We'll help you regardless of whatever you need to figure out. I don't know why you're worrying about this at this hour in the morning.
Yeah.
Just, like, go work, focus on that. You'll figure it out, as you always do. This is not some crazy occurrence that happens to no one. This happens to a million people every week. It's not something to sit around and be sad about. It's just you need to make moves. If we're in the situation where we need to make moves, we'll make them. Otherwise, relax.
Yeah, which is 100% right, and my parents do the exact same thing, but it's like, that is not what I want to hear.
I know.
In the moment, I'm like, I would like to be sad and tell you every reason why I'm sad and how it's unfixable. That's literally always my mindset. I'm like, I'm going to debate you into why I think this is the end for me.
We do that with one another too, but I think we also react like our parents react to one another.
Whenever you and I are having a conversation about some type of like inconvenience like this, we're like, but this, and this. Like, the other person will constantly be poking holes in their argument of why their life
and
is
like ramping them up.
Yeah, and that's what our parents do. That's what anyone's going to do in that situation. But I think, my automatic reaction in those impulsive moments, this is it. My brain needs to go to the most negative scenario, and I will convince everyone that that's going to happen to me. Honestly, like, as we said, we're not out of this by any means. There's still a lot of uncertainty. Dealing with that constant anxiety and just, like, everything up in the air, it's never an easy thing for at least us. I think we're both like relatively type A. I like to have things organized in my life. I want to know where I'm gonna be.
I like some stability.
Stability is important to us, and so accepting that we're not going to have stability for whatever period of time, that is the root of what drives us insane, and keep having these cyclical conversations and breakdowns. It's just because nothing has been necessarily resolved, and it's really hard to live in that limbo, I think, for both of us. I don't know, like, these are the points where I'm trying to be a little more introspective on my own reactions. We are handling this, like, we're getting to the point where we can think about this more rationally. I can see that in our own conversations.
Yeah.
The self-awareness piece is always more important than I think any of us give us credit for. Even when I'm having conversations with you on Wednesday when you were, like, having your moment, and I was in your room, and it's just, I know I'm thinking irrationally. And I think even for you to vocalize that, for me to vocalize that, that's such an important part of this process, when you can take a third-party view and be like, you know what? I am not thinking my most rational self right now.
But that's okay.
And that's okay. Yeah. And, like, the tears are part of my process.
Mine, too.
I kind of need them. Like, I realize that I need them. My breakdown day was Monday. I literally cried all day. It was like a nonstop tears, because I think I was just so overwhelmed by processing this situation, which I was kind of suppressing at the beginning. I wasn't really thinking about it at all, and it all just hit me Monday morning. I literally woke up in tears. I opened my eyes already in tears, and I think it was that. It was the exhaustion from all the other things we've been dealing with the past 2 months. And I think I needed to just emote for a period of time. I needed that day. It actually gave me like more clarity. And I think emoting and these emotional reactions are sometimes looked down upon. To a lot of people, they're like, oh, you're just not, if you cry, you're not processing things the right way, or like, you're not strong enough. When maybe that is your process to be the stronger version of yourself. Like, everyone's not going to have the same exact reaction and be able to think about something super rationally right off the bat. Like, I think emoting is a sign of like also an emotionally healthy human being. It just...
No, I mean, keeping it in is just almost as detrimental, because then you're just letting your brain spin without any release. It is totally valid. Overwhelmed tears are very much a very specific type of tear that's like not
in
the same
the
as
pedigree
sadness.
Of tears.
It literally, but it's true, because
Yeah.
I think when you're overwhelmed crying, it is an actual release. I think a sadness cry is when there's like a point, more of a pointed reason, like some logic behind what you're going through, whereas an overwhelmed cry is there's no specific one reason why I'm crying. That is kind of what all of us went through this week, just because there's so much happening in each of our individual lives. We just needed to let it all out before we rationally processed all the actual steps we need to do to make our plans A, B, and C. That also is something that you and I kind of both do. I think I do this pretty immediately after I have my breakdown. After that, I will start thinking of my plans. The thing that causes me the most relief is when I have, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do this, this, and this. I'm going to look into these 3 things. I'm going to email these people, figure out how they did something, or like get more information on options. And that immediately kind of brings me clarity. Talking it through with my mom also gives me a lot of clarity, because she just lays out other options that I may not be thinking about in front of me. Just starting the planning process, even if none of these plans even need to be used, brings me tons of relief. And that's something I have been doing at a fast rate, I would say, after each breakdown.
You've been very productively breaking down.
Yeah, and before I didn't do that. I would just be sad for like multiple days at a time. And it's different regardless, based off whatever situation you're going through. The breakdowns are different, but in this situation, that's what I needed to do. And I feel a lot more at ease knowing some things are emotion. Even if this doesn't work out, that doesn't work out, there are options for me.
I think I process things definitely different than you, because for me, I am trying to be of the mind that if I don't need to agonize about something, I need to stop myself from agonizing about it.
I can never do that.
I know.
It's my biggest problem.
It's one of my biggest problems too, but I think me being ultra proactive at the current moment would just make me continuously agonize over a lot of different things, because that's where my brain will go when I'm starting to try to do a million different things and think of every option. And so, as painful as it is, it's a different type of agony, honestly, to not do anything and just wait till we have a solid answer and proceed from like facts versus hypotheticals. At this point, at my current state, I need to conserve all the energy that I have for my day-to-day. My brain has just been in overdrive for 2 months. So I think I just realized that, and I'm not gonna be on that proactive wave until I need to be, just because I think that's what my mind and body needs right now. Whatever helps you in these overthinking spirals or in these moments of anxiety and uncertainty, it differs, because maybe that is what's helping me in this situation right now, but in other situations, planning things out does help me. So just reading your mind and body and your current baseline has been helpful to me personally to know what I need in a given moment.
And I really like this whole thing on mind and body, because this whole week I had no intention or energy to work out. And usually that's something I like to do even when I'm stressed out, but I simply had no desire.
You ran 13 miles.
Yes, and that, like, I did that, sure, and I was sore from that for a couple days, but I still just, like, my body is so tired and my brain is so tired that all I really need right now is proper sleep and productive hours at work to make me feel good. When
Sometimes you don't gotta be on your grind.
When you're going through things, I think there's no aspect of a grind. I think it's more, what can your body handle right now and what actually makes it feel good. What makes me feel good right now is 8 hours of sleep. Which I didn't even get last week when we were running, when we were, you know, like, doing I literally
slept the least I have in the year so far last week before this, like, run, and I was traveling and doing all this stuff. I did not sleep well at all. There's an in-between a grind and a slump. Like, people are always like, if you're not on your grind, you're in a slump. No, you could just be in a normal state. Like, you could just be in a state that is reflective and doing what you need to do.
And I think minimizing that gap between a slump and or rather a normal and a grind is kind of where you want to be normally.
Yeah, you want to be if you're constantly on your grind,
then you're not resting enough.
You're just going to burn out,
Yeah, and I think right now I'm at the point where I'm so excited to go on a run maybe tomorrow morning.
Yeah, you needed the break.
Like, I'm eating whatever I want, I'm sleeping, I'm crying, I'm talking through things, and my focus is somewhere else. My priorities are still the same. It's just
staggered.
I have to think about different things now.
Yeah. I feel that, and we needed a moment of reflection. We're probably still going through that period.
We literally go through 2-hour reflections every day.
Every day.
That's each. That's not one person. It's
so
like
4
hours in the morning, 2 hours at night.
4 hours a day. It is a nonstop. We needed the week, and I think we'll be back with a pep in our step. Maybe a light pep. Light little skip.
The one thing that's been giving both of us energy.
We have a mutual favorite, guys, which doesn't happen
often. And I need to tell you guys the story of how I discovered this favorite. Mind you, this is a very popular show, okay? It is a show, and it's popping off. But the show is all American. I heard about it maybe a couple years ago on a podcast I was listening to. Thought I'd be really bored because I'm not into football like that. Immediately hooked. 45-minute shows are my shit. I don't know why, but I saw this man, Michael Bailing, on this show.
Oh my God.
The minute he entered the screen, I was at a loss for words. And I don't get like this for actors.
Deeksha does not thirst over celebrities like this.
Ever. No matter how amazingly good looking.
Actually brought this up to everyone in her life at least 3 times was very alarming.
Literally.
I was like, what?
Like, there is nothing that would have propelled me to watch this show faster than this man on the screen at 2 a.m. I saw him and I was like, I am watching all 4 seasons of the show. Then I followed him on Instagram, did the whole Wikipedia, which I never do.
She never does that. So I'm usually the professional fangirl. Like, I actually...
She is. She knows the entire history of everyone.
If I watch something, I need to know everything about said thing. I do. I know everything all of my favorite celebrities are doing at all times.
And I actually have zero idea what half the people I watch every day on TV, their names are.
Yeah.
And the fact that I saw this one man and I was like, I need to know everything about him.
Rolling out these stats on this man. I was like, what is going on? Mind you, like, wait, what was the celebrity the other week? Robert Downey Jr. No, you would, because our other roommate Prachi was like, who plays Iron Man?
Oh, yeah. And I was like, fuck if I know.
She literally is like, I don't know. And then Ashi, our other roommate, to give her a hint, because Prachi was like, it's RDJ. And then Ashi, our other roommate, goes, Robert De Niro Jr. That's what she said.
No. She said it rhymes with...
Oh, yeah. She said it rhymes with Fatiro. And before she even said the word Fatiro, I actually was like, stop talking right now. Shut your mouth right now.
Yeah, I was like, wait, I think she's referring to this man, but I don't think that's
why are you saying Fatiro? And I was so pissed because I was like, what do you mean? And she thought his name was Robert De Niro Jr. And so that's where we're at the baseline of celebrity history in our apartment. And Diksha's coming out here and being like, Michael Bailing, who is like, who the hell is that?
Followed him on Instagram.
She's like, I know how many siblings he has. I know how many followers he has.
I know his age. I know what month he was born in.
It's like, what is actually going on? But I will say, she got me on the show. We watched 2 episodes, watched them All American, and we'll be back next week with probably a more sophisticated episode.
Thank you for riding this ride with us, and see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Not the solemn byes.